Hello, fifth graders. I am here to teach you your last lesson on Elisha. So today is Thursday. You should have your Bible out, your Bible workbook, and your notes if you want to have them with you as I'm going through the lesson. If not, it's okay. Just make sure you review them for your test. And as a reminder for your test, you can use your notes. Okay, so we're talking about Elisha and Naaman. And we're going to look at a situation where Elisha was asked to ask Naaman to do something that was pretty strange and pretty really? For instance, it was as strange as me asking you to write your name 7 times. And you'd probably look at me and be like, I don't want to write my name 7 times. Isn't once good enough? But it is what is asked of you. And if God asks you to do something, then you need to do that. So, Elisha had a heart for God and was careful to listen to and follow his directions, no matter how odd they seemed. And that's what God expects from us as well. Now, we're going to open our Bibles to 2 Kings chapter 5, and I'm going to read from verses 1 through 10. The king of Aram had great admiration for Naaman, the commander of his army, because through him the Lord had given Aram great victories. But though Naaman was a mighty warrior, he suffered from leprosy. Now, leprosy was a skin disease that was very contagious, and it was also not treatable. So, this is not something that was a good thing for Naaman. At this time, Aramean raiders had invaded the land of Israel, and among their captives was a young girl who had been given to Naaman's wife as a maid. One day the girl said to her mistress, I wish my master would go see the prophet in Samaria. He would heal him of his leprosy. So Naaman told the king what the young girl from Israel had said. Go and visit the prophet, the king of Aram told him. I will send a letter of introduction for you to take to the king of Israel. So Naaman started out, carrying as gifts 750 pounds of silver, 150 pounds of gold, and 10 sets of clothing. The letter to the king of Israel said, With this letter, I present my servant Naaman. I want you to heal him of his leprosy. When the king of Israel read the letter, he tore his clothes in dismay and said, This man sends me a leper to heal. Am I God that I can give life and take it away? I can see that he's just trying to pick a fight with me. But when Elisha, the man of God, heard the king of Israel had torn his clothes in dismay, he sent his message to him. Why are you so upset? Send Naaman to me, and he will learn that there is a true prophet here in Israel. So Naaman went with his horses and chariots and waited at the door of Elisha's house. But Elisha sent a messenger out to him with this message. Go and wash yourself 7 times, in the Jordan River. Then your skin will be restored and you will be healed of your leprosy. Okay, so we have Naaman, who is the commander of the Aramean army, and he is sent to the king of Israel. And the king of Israel is like, well, I can't heal you. Why are you sending him to me? And he's so distraught that he tears his clothes in dismay, meaning that he was like, what am I supposed to do with this? Okay, and he was so upset he didn't know what to do. He thought that he was going to end up going to war with the Aramean warriors, and he didn't want that. So Elisha hears about what is going on with the king and says, send him to me. I will give him directions on how to heal. Okay, remember that Elisha was a prophet of God. And because he was a prophet of God, he was given direct access to God, and God gave him messages. And the message was to tell Naaman to wash himself in the Jordan River 7 times. And you can imagine that Naaman's reaction might be like, you want me to do what? How many times? I don't know how that's going to heal me. And it could go one of 2 ways. He could be like, okay, yeah, I'll do that. I mean, the river might be nice, and if I get healed, that's great. Or he might be like, no, I'm not going to do that. You cannot make me, and I don't think that's going to heal me. I don't think you're being helpful. So I want you to make a prediction of what you think the reaction of Naaman will be. Will he be, yes, I'll go do that, or no, he won't? Okay, so let's continue in verse 13. But his officers tried to reason with him and said, "Sir, if the prophet had told you to do something very difficult, wouldn't you have done it? So you should certainly obey him when he says simply, 'Go and wash and be cured.'" So Naaman went down to the Jordan River and dipped himself 7 times, as the man of God had instructed him, and his skin became as healthy as the skin of a young child's, and he was healed. Then Naaman and his entire party went back to find the man of God. They stood before him, and Naaman said, "Now I know that there is no God in all the world except in Israel, so please accept a gift from your servant." But Elisha replied, "As surely as the Lord lives, whom I serve, I will not accept any gifts." And though Naaman urged him to take the gift, Elisha refused. Then Naaman said, "All right, but please allow me to load 2 of my mules with earth from this place, and I will take it back home with me. From now on, I will never again offer burnt offerings or sacrifices to any other god except the Lord. However, may the Lord pardon me in this one thing. When my master the king goes into the temple of the god of Rimmon to worship there and leans on my arm, may the Lord pardon me when I bow." So, Elijah must have had quite a reputation as God's servant for an ungodly person to listen to him. So his reputation must have spread throughout the land, and people knew that he was a prophet of God. And even though Naaman was a proud man and he thought Elijah's directions were ridiculous, he humbled himself and chose to listen to the man of God. Imagine all of the blessings he would have missed if he had let his pride get in the way. Not only would he not have been cured, but he also would not have known the one true God. He had this great opportunity to listen to Elisha and be cured, and also know that God is God, and that these false gods that these other countries or these other people were following they're not the same. We cannot compare them, because there's only one true God, and that's the God that we follow. Okay, so I'm going to jump down to 19. And we're going to read about Gehazi. Okay, but Gehazi, the servant of Elijah, the man of God, said to himself, "My master should not have let this Aramean get away without accepting any of his gifts. As surely as the Lord lives, I will chase after him and get something from him." So Gehazi set off after Naaman. When Naaman saw Gehazi running after him, he climbed down from his chariot and went to meet him. "Is everything all right?" Naaman asked. "Yes," Gehazi said, "but my master has sent me to tell you that 2 young prophets from the hill country of Ephraim have just arrived. He would like 75 pounds of silver and 2 sets of clothing to give to them." "By all means, take twice as much silver," Naaman insisted. He gave him 2 sets of clothing, tied up the money in 2 bags, and sent 2 of his servants to carry the gifts for Gehazi. But when they arrived at the citadel, Gehazi took the gifts from the servants and sent the men back. Then he went and hid the gifts inside the house. When he went into his master, Elisha asked him, "Where have you been, Gehazi?" "I haven't been anywhere," so he replied. But Elijah asked him, "Don't you realize that I was there in spirit when Naaman stepped down from his chariot to meet you? Is this a time to receive money and clothing, olive groves and vineyards, sheep and cattle, and male and female servants? Because you have done this, you and your descendants will suffer from Naaman's leprosy forever." When Gehazi left the room, he was covered with leprosy. His skin was white as snow. So now we have Gehazi, who's the servant of Elisha, and he looks at Elijah and is like, "You're not going to take any of this nice stuff. You're just going to let this be for free? Like, why would you do that?" And so instead of just being like, well, maybe he has a reason, he decides to lie to Naaman and say, "Hey, my master wants this, and this for these 2 prophets that are coming." And we know that Elijah did not ask that. He did not have 2 prophets coming from another country. He didn't have any of that Gehazi lied. So we can look at Gehazi's sins, that he rebelled against Elisha's decision by not listening to him. He lied twice. He lied to both Elisha and Naaman. He also hid the items from Elijah. Gehazi took the money and clothes because he felt Naaman should pay for his healing, and that Gehazi was selfish and greedy because he intended to keep the money for himself. It wasn't like Gehazi meant to say, here, I'm going to take this, but I'm going to give it to Elisha, but I'm going to keep it for myself. That's very selfish. And he didn't listen to Elijah, and he did what he wanted. And Elijah showed leadership when he sent notice to the king of Israel regarding Naaman. And people who also showed leadership in 2 Kings 5, that's the chapter that we read, we saw the servant girl who told Naaman's wife about Elisha. We see the king of Syria who was willing to write the letter to send Naaman to Israel to be healed. We see Naaman who was willing to travel to a foreign country for healing, who had no idea if he could be healed or not, or what would happen. Okay, and Naaman's servants who spoke up to urge their master to obey the prophet's instructions. And I actually want to go back and read that. So you're reading in 2 Kings 5, and I want to go back to verse 11. But Naaman became angry and stalked away. I thought he would certainly come out to meet me, he said. I expected him to wave his hand over the leprosy and call on the name of the Lord his God and heal me. Aren't the rivers of Damascus, the Abana, and the Piper better than any of the rivers of Israel? Why shouldn't I wash in them and be healed? So Naaman turned and went away in rage. But his officers tried to reason with him. So just instead of just saying, okay, you don't want to be healed, you don't believe that you're going to be healed, okay, let's go back, let's go home, whatever. They didn't do that. They showed leadership by saying, I will, or by telling Naaman to listen, to at least try. I mean, what harm could it do? You're going to swim in the water 7 times, okay? No big deal. Okay, they showed leadership. Okay, so I hope that you have found something in this Bible lesson that is meaningful and that you can take away. Now that I am finished teaching, you are going to go ahead and do practice book page 104 to reinforce what you just learned. Don't forget your test is tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I will see you for the next one. Bye, guys.